CCA is an interdisciplinary design studio based in Mexico City, established in 2008 by Bernardo Quinzaños Oria. The studio is rooted in research, concepts, and architecture that instill positive impact on immediate surroundings and on society. Every project is an opportunity for them to capitalize on knowledge, talent, and creativity of the team, and to practice inclusive and collaborative working methods. And so today we are joined by Bernardo himself to chat about cultivating creativity and collaborative environments. So happy to have you here.
Thank you very much, Karina. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure is ours. So first tell us about your background and about the studio.
Okay, so I started my career in the arts. I started doing a lot of painting, sculpture, drawing. And then as I moved forward, I studied architecture in the Iberoamericana University. And I just fell in love with architecture. And ever since, I've been practicing this type of architecture, which has an artistic kind of methodology to it. But 15 years ago, 2008, we founded the firm, Centro de Colaboración Arquitectónica, and we've been working mainly in Mexico in a different and very wide range of projects, from individual housing to collective housing, to cultural projects, universities, schools, and public projects, such as sporting facilities or cultural centers. Our office is based in Mexico City, and we have an interdisciplinary team of architects, mainly architects, but also engineers and designers, and also other specialists from other fields that are working towards an architecture that has a positive impact for the communities that it's where the architecture is built, and also with taking into consideration the scarcity of means that we have in our country, and also the protection or the enhancement even of the natural environment around our projects. That's why all of our projects tend to be very careful with the landscaping, and we think of our projects as architectural elements within gardens. So that's basically the introduction. I've been very blessed with having a series of opportunities to design different scale projects around our country, and to learn a lot during these 15 years. We have found that Mexico it cannot be seen like a single country. It's like a mosaic of different cultural environments, different natural environments, and we would like to present our architecture as an architecture that is respectful to the well-being of the land and the people that inhabit the land. So in this way, our projects, even though they are very different and they range between homes in the near the ocean or in the mountain or in the cities, all of our projects tend to have like a line of thinking around them, which has certain elements that we really are kind of obsessed with, that all of our projects should take into consideration. One of them, of course, is the context. It's a very contextual architecture in which I like the idea of this building that seems that it has always been there. So this has to take into consideration the local craftsmanship, the local materials around the site. Also, I'm very interested in structure. In Mexico, we have a very deep respect for structural design because we have had devastating earthquakes that have killed a lot of people that were inside buildings. So this kind of engineering, structural engineering, is very important to Mexico. And since we have a certain scarcity of means, I have found that if we take this structure and make this structure one of the main characters of the building, so the structure will not be modified by the contractors. The structure will be respected by the user. They will not modify the structure because we have a respect for it. So if you do a structure that in the same gesture you're solving the structure, but also the facade, also the main spatial quality of the building, we can ensure that even if during the construction process, people try to do different materials, try to make it cheaper, try to lessen the qualities of the building, the structure will be intact, and the structure will be one of the main, characters of the story of the building. So we have developed a very keen observation of structure, of course, working with local materials, but as well with concrete and steel. So we've done several interesting structures based in concrete, and we have been researching the way to make concrete structure more sustainable. And we have found that concrete is the most durable of the structures. And so we tend to think that a building that will last 100 years, that's sustainable, because it's not going to be a disposable building that we're going to have to renovate every 5 or 7 years. There's also different elements in our architecture. For example, I'm very interested in geometry. I'm very interested in the numeric aspect of geometry. So all of our buildings have a point of departure in terms of the design elements, which are very geometric, and this also is encompassed by a certain rhythm and modularity for the building. So we would like to present our buildings as a very articulate and orderly modular structures that can be used in different ways. And also the third thing is, I like to think about buildings as the hardware of life. So we are specialists in designing hardware, and also it's very important for hardware to work to have good software. So software is the program that is going to be giving life to the building. So we tend to make habitable structures that are very easily programmable with different things, in a way that architectural design for me is the manipulation of space through time. So the structure should be very useful during its life, and it's going to be different uses that are going to be there. And then, of course, the user. So it's the trifecta. The hardware, the software, and the user. So this analogy of the building as a computer, if you have a great computer with great hardware, it doesn't work. You need the software. And if you have the computer with the great software, you still need the person to make really the use of the computer. And this is kind of the thinking around some of our public buildings, in which we have a lot of control of the hardware, but very little control of the software, because the different governments are going to be changing. The people that are in power, that are going to be administrating these buildings, is going to be changing, but the people is always going to be there. So we want to make buildings that are really just very strong pieces of hardware that are durable, that will last for a long time, and that will be and their structure is going to be sculptural, it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to withstand the test of time.
Really neat. So, which makes it a nice segue to how do you incorporate tech-aided approach to architecture and urban planning projects?
I like to think of this balance, or this dance between technology and craftsmanship. So craftsmanship in Mexico, as you might know, is very amazing. We've had great craftsmanship for a long time. Way before the Spanish came to Mexico, we had really beautiful craftsmanship with stone work, with great buildings made with stone and with wood. And this craftsmanship is now enhanced with the use of technology. So I'm very interested in this duality, in which we use both processes at the same time. I'm going to give you, just a quick run through one of any of our projects. So first, we're going to have a lot of information around the project. Before we start, we may be been to the site. a couple of times, 3, 4, 5 times. We've talked to the clients, we've talked to the people, we've talked to the community. We know what they need. We know a lot about the project. We have surveys, topographic, vegetation, winds, all of the information that is gathered through technology with photo aerial recognition and with other instruments that are technological. Then we start the design project, and we do it in a very artisanal way. We do all of the drawings I do by hand. I do the concept of the building by hand, and then with these hand drawings, my team will get them into the computer, and they will start building models with iterations and variations of this idea, which we're gonna be then polishing, also drawing by hand. And then we're gonna come up with models that are gonna be used to make architectural models, scale models that are very important in our practice. So we're gonna be building different models for each project, testing different ideas, testing different solutions. And these models also are a mix with technology, because some of the pieces we make with the 3D printing, some of the pieces we make with the laser cutting, and some of them are made by hand. All of it is assembled by hand, painted by hand, and all of our models are like works of art. And then these iterations of the drawing end up becoming a building information model in the computer, from which we get the plans for the construction site, we get the model for our 3D images, and then the construction site in Mexico is very artisanal. It's not very technical. Of course, we use some machines, but it's done mainly by hand. We use the hammer, and we use the hands for basically most of our buildings during the construction. So this translation from the digital world to the actual construction world is also a duality between technology and artisan craftsmanship. Of course, we use the technology to communicate with them, but then we do the person-to-person interaction to explain the details to the craftsmanship teams that are going to be building these beautifully detailed buildings.
Oh, it's holistic. So, how do you contribute to creating a positive impact on the surrounding context and society through architecture? Maybe you can use one or two of your projects as an example.
Yes, thank you. Well, yeah, we think this is very important. I think it's a key element in contemporary architecture. Architecture should not be only a beautiful object, should not be only a monument or a place that is only beautiful, but it has to have an impact on society. It has to have a positive impact in the planet and in the context. So according to the different views for every project, we have different ways of contributing to a more equal society and a more enriched environment. So there are projects that are, for example, based in the city, in which we have to use certain criteria that is very different than when we are building in the forest, in which we would like to preserve the forest. In the city, we think we should reintroduce the green life into the city through our buildings, but also the buildings should be able to give back to society. I'm gonna give you a couple of just quick examples. Some years ago, we built the Boys and Girls Club in Mexico City, which is a building for a foundation for underprivileged kids that need attention after school. So it's a building that is gonna give these kids an opportunity, because it's in a neighborhood that is the most violent neighborhood in Mexico, with a very gross crime rates, unwanted pregnancies, drug addiction. All of the urban catastrophes are concentrated in this part. And through our building, these kids have an opportunity to learn music, sports, skills that are going to be with them through their life. So this is a way in which our building is helping children in an indirect way, and it's also about the hardware. They have this safe space in which they can have a good childhood, and it's very different that when we do a project, for example, when we're rehabilitating a sport facility, in which of course we're gonna give the community the possibility of a healthier life through exercise. So each project has its own way of contributing to society, and across the board, I think all of the projects should be contributing to a better, healthier environment in general. So even if we only have construction materials on hand that are considered destructive to Mother Nature, we have to use them in a way carefully and durably. So this ecological impact will have a good and it's going to be worth a while. So some of these buildings, depending on the situation of the building, they will respond in a different way to different situations in each case. But all of them should be having this in mind. How is this building impacting the society? How is this building impacting the natural environment? How is this place better after I put my building in it than it was before? So that is a question that we have to have in the back of our minds across the board in all different kinds of projects.
That's really nice. Maybe you want to share in depth about the Community Development Center project?
Sure. There's a series of projects in Jalpa de Méndez, Tabasco, which is in the southern part of Mexico, very warm climate, very humid, super hot. And we were invited by the Mexican government to create a series of buildings for this municipality. It's a very small municipality. It has a little over 100,000 inhabitants, so it's a small town. And it had two main public spaces that really needed a lot of attention. It was very neglected. It was lacking investment for a lot of time. So the government invited us to intervene in these two spaces. So one of them it's a cultural space, and one of them it's a sporting facility. The sporting facility is in Colonia San Luis. It's a part of the town in which we build a high performance sports facility, which is basically a park, but it's dedicated to sports. It has a big gym that it's going to be used for different sports. It has small rooms, and it also has a large covered space for like basketball and sports. And then it has a small baseball stadium that is also part of this complex, and a sporting facility which is gardens and running tracks, skating park, all of these type of facilities. And then in the other one, it's a cultural facility that it's called El Campestre, which it's basically two projects in one. So it's the rehabilitation of the park and the construction of a pavilion. This pavilion is going to be used for a fair that it's a yearly fair that is in this town. These guys have a local produce called butifarra, which is like a kind of meat product that it's local tradition from there. And they have this fair, the fair of butifarra. So we did this pavilion, which is going to be the housing of the fair. And in the other side of the park, we did the CDC, which is the Community Development Center. So the Community Development Center is a building. It's a building with a very flexible program. It's basically a building with a library, auditorium, and a series of rooms that are going to be multi-purpose. So the community will have different cultural and artistic programs during the year. So this building, we decided to go for an idea of a central courtyard, but this central courtyard is like an oasis because it's covered with huge concrete arches that are gonna give us beautiful shading, and then it's gonna let the air through the patio, so it's gonna give us a very nice, cool temperature inside the patio, and all of the program of the building is looking inwards towards the patio. So it's a very beautiful beautiful concept in which all of these arches are creating this central space, which is also a bioclimatical solution for the heat of the place. And all of these 4 projects that I talked to you about are all made in exposed concrete with a orange color. And this color we took from the balustrade of the downtown plaza of the village. So they use this orange stone in the balustrade of the plaza. They have the little church. They have this shaded corridor that is crowned with this balustrade that is made with a pinkish orange stone. So we use this stone, and we use this concept of the covered shaded walkways to connect the buildings with this concrete structure, which is also a shaded colonnade, which uses the same color. So in this way, we are kind of attaching the old feeling of the town with the new modern feeling of the town. It feels like a part of the same, public realm, but it's like in an old way and in like a very modern, contemporary way. These projects are interesting for us because they have they are part of a program in which the federal government will invest in these towns, but then they will give these buildings, they will give them to the municipality. So then they become operated by the municipality. And this is tricky because the client is not the user. And so what we did here is we had a series of conversation and workshop with the community, so we can make sure that the proposals that we are introducing to these parts are well received by the community. And then the other thing is the structural part. So since we don't know who's going to be the next municipal leader, we have to do a building that is very flexible, that the structure is the only real element of the building. All of it, it's an inhabitable structure. The 4 projects are thought in this way, and we try to use certain geometric elements that are very rooted in our minds. For example, the arches. The arches are this very old element that it's rooted in our past, that it's rooted in our collective memory. That it has an institutional feeling. It has like a grandiose feeling, and it's also very beautiful. So we use this type of concrete structure to solve all of these design issues.
Really nice, and must be a really exciting process, not only in the making, but also in the process, because of the many stakeholders and the many considerations to take into account, right, for the years to come.
Yeah, it's super interesting. For example, we one of the briefings of the contract that we couldn't move away from was the building material had to be concrete, but then we thought about if the structure had to be concrete, then we wouldn't like to also finish it with other materials on top of it, just make it raw. And also we noticed that there was very sharp craftsmanship with the wood forms that are for the shaping of the concrete. So we used these computer designed arches that are then translated into just artisanal pieces of wood that are placed to create the arches by local craftsmanship, and the result is a very beautiful type of geometry that, for example, in the case of the pavilion, it's not possible to design without a computer, but it's possible to build with just simple tools.
Oh, it's really a testament and an example of how powerful architecture can be, I feel like. So lastly, in the future, how do you envision the role of architecture evolving to foster an even more collaborative and creative environment in the middle of this rapid urbanization?
Okay, so what I think is that architecture, regardless of whatever anyone can say, architecture is a very deeply collaborative endeavor, because we need different pieces of the puzzle for a building to be a reality. So for example, I think as necessity as the mother of architecture. If we have necessities, that's gonna be our point of departure. So we need a school, so we need a hospital, so we need a park, so we need home, so we need shelter. So the need is like the genesis of this kind of collaborative architecture. And then you also need, the people who are gonna put the money, the people who are owners of the land, the workers, the engineers, the permits. So even if you want to kind of try to deny it and try to wrap architecture as like a personal expression, it's really not. It's really a collaborative effort, regardless of if you deny it or if you try it. So in this way, I think if you understand this collaborative nature of architecture and you run with it and you try to make the most of each person that is collaborating, and the more inclusive, the more thoughtful, carefully designed, taking into account all of the different actors, all of the different people, taking into account the construction methods, the construction techniques, the people, how are going to be living during the construction time. So I think this is a way to potentialize architecture. And I like to say that architecture has 3 lives, and all of the 3 lives are collective. The first life is the life that lives in the drawings, in the models, in the computer, in the imagination. That's the first life of architecture. The second life, it's the construction. During the construction, the reality is being transformed. Material from around the world, from different places, energy is getting poured into this construction site, and it's like a dance between man and machine, and raw material converted into produce. And then the third life, well, the second life is very collective as well, and the third life is also collective because it's the user. So buildings have no sense to exist if they're going to be empty. So the purpose of a building is actually to give something, to solve a need, to solve a necessity of the community. And if the building fails to do that, it's failing in every aspect. So a building makes sense when we're going to be using it. And when the community makes this building part of their life, that is when architecture can be successful. So architecture is absolutely collaborative. And this is why we have even used this word in the name of our practice, because it's in the root and it's in the essence of all of architecture.
Can't think of a better way to end. And thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you so much, Karina. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations on your project, The Design Story. I think it's very important for you guys to keep on communicating stories around architecture and to be able to connect the dots between people that are passionate about this field.
Thank you so much.